All right, today we are going to be talking about 3.3 practice. So we're going to learn how to create a frequency distribution in Excel. Enter, these are the steps we're going to step through. Enter all data into a column in Excel with a column header. Two, in a separate column, type the upper limit for your classes. In the third column, type a class limit for labels on the frequency table. Click the data tab followed by the data analysis and yada yada yada. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I actually broke it down into steps a little bit better for you. So create a frequency distribution on Excel for the following table. So step 1, decide on the classes to use in regard to the data into what bins to sort. So here's my data right over here. And I need to find the max, the min, and we're going to use what we used last time, that little table. Let me pull it up. Basically, this little table that we talked about yesterday, constructing frequency distribution. We're going to determine how many classes should be in it. Between 4 and 20 is usually acceptable. Determine the class width by max minus min divided by number of classes, and then round to the nearest whole number, basically, or integer. Find the class limits, the lower class limits, the smallest number in the class, the upper class limits, the largest number in the class. Determine the frequency of each class, okay? So we're going to do that on Excel. Sorry. Okay, so let's find the max and the min and the range first. So equal max, our function, and we're going to select all our data right here, enter, and then we're going to do the same thing with our min, equal min. Select all our data, enter, and then again, we have max minus min, so equals max minus our minimum. Okay, and then we have to choose like how many we want to divide by, and so I decided that my class, my number I'm going to divide it into is 10, so I'm going to make it chosen class bins. We're going to have 10 of those, okay? Also class limits, so 10 class limits, okay? So we're going to do our range, or our max minus our min, over how many bins we want, okay? And we want this to be a whole number, so we're going to go up, so make sure we include every number, so it's going to be 22, okay? Then we're going to go to step 2. Our step 2, Excel use only the maximum numbers for each category to list them. So I'm going to need a lower limit, or a lower limit, and I'm going to need an upper limit. Okay, these are our frequency values, so we're going to need upper and lower frequency. Okay, one second, let me link to this one too. Explain that one in a second, okay? So let's start with, well, my lower number is 25.14, my min, so I'm going to start counting 25. And we decided that the width is going to be 22, so instead, a lot of people are going to add 22 to 25, but that would be incorrect. What you want to do is you want to add 22 to your lower limit to get your next lower limit. So what I'm going to do is 25 plus 22. And you're going to do that all the way down. So I'm going to take that function and scroll it on down. And so we're taking the lower limit that we have and adding 22 to get our next lower limit. We're not adding 22 to get our upper limit, because that would be 23 spaces between it, not 22. Okay, and then we're going to, so since we are talking, what we're talking about is money, closing prices in dollars. So dollars, we're going to go by 0.9 looking at the data. So we're going to go right below our lower limit that we created here. So 46 would be the next whole number below, but we want to go, since we're talking about money, we're going to go 46.9. We're just going to minus 0.1. Okay, there's a couple ways of doing this. So you can do this minus that 0.1, or you could also do the same thing as you did with the lower limit, which is the previous one plus 22, and that will give you that same value. And then we just drag it, or you can do that to each individual cell if you would like. And those are our upper and lower limits. Now, to make sure, before we even go on further, we need to make sure that our maximum is represented here on this number. And our maximum was 240. 240.33, and this goes all the way to 244.9, so we are good. So my class bins, You could call them class limits. Class so this one's going to be 25 to 46.9, and you're going to want to do this because this will save you time in a second, to 68.9, 69 to 90.9, and so on and so forth. 12.9, 13 to 134.9, 135 to 156.9, and 157 to 178.9, 179 to 200, 200.9, 201 to 222.9, and lastly 223 to 244.9. Okay, now we're going to create the frequency and table in the histogram. So above we did 1, 2, and 3. That is what the class labels and the class bins was. Now we're going to go to 4, which click the data tab followed by the data. Now we're going to actually get into the meat and potatoes of it and what Excel is cool about. So if I click So when I click data analysis and I click histogram, okay, then you're going to want your input range to include that header, that closing price dollars, and you're going to go all the way down to 117 or all the way to the bottom where the data is. And then your bin range is going to be your upper limits, not your lower limits. Be sure to click on your upper limits, so all of these numbers, and include the upper limit sign up top because it will make it look nicer, and it will actually, without the upper limits, it will be off. Okay, then you make sure this labels is clicked, and then your output range is where you're selecting to put the data. So I'm going to go ahead and select right here. Oh, so I just did that, so I need to go here and make sure that you put your upper limits, and then when you come here, you go output range, you erase that. And then I'm going to select to put that there, and then make sure your chart output is selected also, and then you just push OK. And then it will give you the frequencies table right here, and then your histogram, which came up here, but we're going to move it on down here to play with it so you can see the frequency with the histogram. Okay, but we're going to fix this frequency table because right now it just kind of looks like a mess. So this is why I made you go ahead and write these. So what you're going to do is copy, Control C those, the class bins that you wrote, and you're going to go ahead and paste those right here, and that will fix your problem of that. Okay, then you can see that changing this actually changed it on the graph, which is really cool. So now you have a frequency table over here, and you have a histogram, but this is not actually a histogram. First of all, we have to change, we have to label it and make sure it looks nice and proper. So first step, you click on the header, and then you're going to erase it, and this is talking about, what is it talking about? Dow Jones Industrial Average Closing Cost, so that is what we're going to put as the header, Dow Jones, Industrial Average Closing Cost. Industrial Average Closing Cost. Okay, and then we also need to make this a little nicer because down here, upper limit, that's not what we're calling it. This is talking about what is this talking about? So it was talking about closing prices and per dollar. So I'm going to put closing prices, and it is dollars. Okay. Okay. All right. That looks okay. But this is not, this more is kind of nothing, and we don't really need it there, and it kind of makes the graph a little skewed. So to get rid of the more section, you're going to click on your data, and you're going to click right on the right, and you're going to select data. And you're not going to mess with anything on here other than you're going to come all the way down on this column and you're going to unclick more. This will help get rid of that more section here, and then you can delete it off your frequency table also. And it doesn't give that big gap. Okay, a couple other things that we need to do is there's a difference between a bar graph and a histogram. A histogram, all the data is right next to each other. A bar graph, it's kind of spread out and there is space between it. So we need to get rid of that space. So if you click on the right, you should actually see this, and you can go to the 3 bar marks, and I would like you to make the gap width 0. Okay, and that makes the gap width nothing. There's no space between each one. If you don't like how it looks because it's kind of all over the place, you can come here and you can border it. And since I can't see perfectly, border it, and you can put border a solid line, and just do not make it white because that would be pointless in the reason we got rid of the space and the width, okay? And then maybe make it a little darker so you can see it a little bit better. Okay? All right. One last thing that I like to do is over here, it's easy to see this is 5, this is 2, but over here it gets a little bit harder. So if you click here, if you click on the graph again and you go to add data labels, it will pop up how many each one has, so what the frequency is. So now you have a frequency table and you have a histogram done by Excel. Awesome. So now I want you to do the same thing with this, and if you pause it, that'd be awesome. I'm going to real quick go ahead and do the steps. So equal minimum, select it, equal maximum. Okay. And then if we're just stepping through those steps that were listed out, and then range equals max minus min. And I'm going to do a bin width of, let's do, well, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's what I chose, was 8. I did class bins. So bin width would be this. So 36 divided by 8. And so I'm going to count by 5s. Okay, so my lower one, my minimum has to be 62, and we're going to equal 62 plus 5. And I'm going to add those all the way down. And since we're going heartbeats and we're going kind of by ones, we can go the closest integer, which would be 66. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing, equals 66 plus 5. And go all the way down. Okay, and then you fill in your actual bin width, just like we did before. All right, so then you have your class bins, and now you are ready to go. So then you go data, again, data analysis, data analysis, don't want to click that, data analysis, sorry, histogram, okay, and then now you're going to have to enter new information here. So we're going to clear these out for us, and then we're going to come on down and we're going to enter that new information. So input range. So our input range is going to be all those heartbeats right there. Our bin range is going to again be your upper limit. So we're going to click upper and limit, and then labels. Make sure you have our labels picked. Our output chart range should go right here. Let's go. Chart outputs clicked. Okay. And then here is our frequency, and then histogram went all the way over here. We're going to scroll back in, zoom back in, and we're going to move it back down to where it needs to go. Down here, and we're going to go ahead and label the, we're going to label the graph just like we did above and fix some things with it. So first thing, let's go ahead and change these upper. Let's Control Z this. Control C, and then copy it right here. Okay, and that should have changed. Oh gosh, Control C, and we Control V it. All right, and that will change that. And then we need to label it. So we're going to label it heartbeats per minute of students. Then we're going to change this label to beats per minute because that's what we're talking about. And then I went ahead and got rid of that more by clicking on the data, clicking on right, clicking select data. And then I came down here and unclicked that more button. Okay. And it got rid of that more section over here. And then I went ahead and added that data. I got rid of the gap by moving the gap width, and then I added that data by coming here, clicking on the data again, and coming to format data labels and adding that data labels. Okay, so your graph should look something like this. It looks awesome. It looks together, and then it has the data label, so it's easy to see the frequency. And then here are my frequency table. All right, that is 3.3. Thank you.